In Palestine, a crowd welcomed more than 640 prisoners that were released from Israeli jails as part of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. State workers in Argentina continue to protest and have announced a new national strike and mobilizations against the policies of the government of Javier Milei. And the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has announced that thousands of its employees will be furloughed due to a reduction in its staff. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belen de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin with the situation in the Middle East and Palestine. A crowd welcomed more than 640 prisoners that were released from Israeli jails as part of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. Around midnight on Wednesday, hundreds of Palestinian relatives gathered in the vicinity of the Cultural Palace in Ramallah to welcome the released prisoners. The liberation was originally scheduled for last Saturday, but Israel delayed it. According to Prisoners' Information Office, the number of Palestinians released in this seventh and last round of the first phase of the agreement is 641. Meanwhile, Israeli media confirmed the reception of the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages handed over by the Hamas movement.
I was surprised when the liberated prisoners say that it was an indescribable feeling. It was truly a feeling greater than all the words can describe, but it was a feeling filled with victory, filled with the joy of returning to our families, to our people, and to our homeland.
Who comes out of hell, from the hell of Nazism? This is hell. We were in hell and we came out of hell. Today is my real day of birth. Today is the birthday of a prisoner who comes out of this hell.
And also in this context, Palestinian authorities in Gaza have warned of crisis due to cold, rains and supply shortages. Health authorities reported the death of 6 infants last week due to low temperatures and the lack of heating methods due to fuel shortage. Mohamed Abu Wafash, the director of medical aid in the Gaza Strip, warned about the poor conditions in which the Gazidi population is living due to difficulties in accessing the basic supplies necessary for human life. The officials stressed that about 60,000 mobile homes and 200,000 tents are needed to shelter the thousands of families left homeless as a result of the Israeli aggression. In Lebanon, the government led by Nawaf Salam received the confidence of the parliament on Wednesday. The debate session also included an extensive debate on the ministerial program, during which 48 legislators intervened. The program highlighted the commitment of the government to the defense of the country, respect for international treaties, and the full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. At the end of the session, Salam stressed the need to strengthen both the confidence of citizens and of legislators. And we go to Doha, capital of Qatar, as the 10th General Assembly of the Global Public Diplomacy Network continues. At the event, which takes place from February 25th to 27th, the organization's member countries will draw up a roadmap for the work between 2025 and 2030. The Assembly seeks to promote international cooperation, focusing on the cultural sphere, the exchange of knowledge, and the promotion of the arts. In parallel to the main summit, a meeting of international journalists and media is being held, to which participants from different parts of the world were invited to discuss the challenges of communication nowadays.
I found it very enriching because apart from the fact that we did not know that organization, the GPD net has tried to connect different countries in cultural and art matters. I think the entity is doing a great work, so that we are on the right track.
GPD Net's work for 10 years has been paramount to strengthen links in terms of culture, communication and heritage between different nations, but to be made visible.
And in this context, Colombian journalist and president of teleSUR, Patricia Villegas, attended the meeting as a guest to debate on media communication.
In the particular case of teleSUR, to be here is to be able to link with outlets and journalists from different global regions so that we can share these goals. In addition, we can transfer our ideas and our enthusiasm so that every time media outlets, in general, all means of communication have human contents, have contents that make us essentially human, and therefore media outlets have contents that give hope.
And in other news, the Vatican press office announced early on Thursday that Pope Francis has experienced a new and slight improvement according to the medical report from Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where he is being treated. After being admitted to the hospital on February 14th for bronchitis with polymicrobial infection and then a bilateral pneumonia, Francis' state of health has improved over the last 24 hours. A computed tomography scan of his chest carried out on Wednesday night showed a normal evolution of his lung condition, although he continues to receive oxygen with no respiratory crisis. They also detailed that the renal insufficiency had improved and that he is no longer in critical condition. And the United Nations World Food Programme, the WFP, temporarily called off the food and aid distribution in the Zamzam camp for displaced people in Western Sudan. The WFP Regional Director for Eastern Africa, Laurent Bukera, warned that this decision could result in the death of thousands of families in the upcoming weeks. The authority further stressed the need to resume delivery of life-saving aid and around Zamzam safely, quickly, and at scale, ensuring the safety of humanitarian organizations. This call comes after Doctors Without Borders also suspended their activities due to the fact that the paramilitary rapid support forces had set them as targets. Overall, UN experts estimated that the two-year conflict has caused not only over 12 million displaced, but also famine in the rest of the population. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. Japanese authorities ordered on Wednesday the evacuation of some 2,100 people in the northeastern Ofunato city due to the spreading of a wildfire that threatens nearby homes. The public broadcaster NHK reported the fire broke out at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon local time, and it is estimated to be started in a work shed and from there fanned to a wooded area. Authorities ordered the evacuation of 904 nearby houses, affecting 2,114 people. Several wildfires have broken out in both Ofunato and Rikuzen Takata cities. And in Afghanistan, the Taliban government reported 36 deaths and over 40 others injured as a result of flash floods stemmed from torrential rains in several domestic regions. Mullah Janan Sayek, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Disaster Management, informed that the account just comprises victims registered from Monday through Tuesday. Moreover, the diplomat said having no further records of increasing casualties. The southwestern Farah province was one of the hardest hit by rainstorms, so that local death toll there could be pushed up to 20. In addition, authorities estimated damages in housing and agricultural harvest, namely over 240 full shattered houses and 61 partially devastated. Likewise, they warned that snow had blocked several roads. And the Ecuadorian government declared a state of emergency in coastal provinces due to heavy rains and flooding. The National Emergency Operations Committee issued an official state of emergency in Esmeralda, Manabí, Guayas, Santa Elena, Los Ríos, and El Oro provinces as a result of rainstorms. Meanwhile, the National Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology forecasted rains, storms, and gusts until February 27th. Therefore, authorities granted that their top priorities were to safeguard people, ensure them basic services, and support the affected communities. In other news, the Confederation of State Workers in Argentina is continuing its protest and has announced a new national strike and mobilizations against the policies of the government of Javier Milei. The organization assures that they will remain in the streets to try to stop the adjustments that are destroying the social and productive fabric of the nation. They also affirm that the aim of the conflict is to recover the salaries and pensions that have been taken away from them by the Milei government. The union explained the surprise factor of these demonstrations is aimed at avoiding the repression unleashed against those who demand respect for their rights. Also in Argentina, attorney Gregorio Dalbón requested to seize the cell phones of President Javier Milei, his sister Karina Milei, and spokesman Manuel Adorni. On a published letter, Dalbón presented such petition to guarantee the preservation of evidence relevant to the Libra case, also known as Cryptogate. The request was made with the argument that it is necessary to attend the institutional gravity of this case, and for the lawyer it is also needed to request the broadening of the indictment to the General Secretary of the Presidency. And Guatemalan social movements and survivors of violence held a march on Tuesday from the Supreme Court of Justice to the Plaza de las Niñas. Participants paid tribute to the memory of their relatives. Likewise, they demanded compensations and justice. Protesters denounced the governmental inaction while it allocated 41 million a month to pay former military personnel. They further noted that there is no program to compensate the victims of this armed conflict. In all, the military dictatorships have affected many Guatemalan lives, counting at least 200,000 murders and 45,000 missing because of these massacres. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. Russian and United States delegations met on Thursday in Turkey as part of the reapproaching of the process between the parties on the conflict with Ukraine. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the meeting would address the systematic problems that have accumulated as a result of the illegal activities of the former U.S. administration in creating artificial obstacles to the work of the Russian embassy. For his part, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last Monday that the White House was preparing to begin to outline what Russia would need to do to deal with the conflict in Ukraine. The first talks between the two delegations took place last February 18th in Saudi Arabia and have been described as very positive by the representatives of both countries. And the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has announced that thousands of its employees will be furloughed due to a reduction in staff. Faced with a scandal of misappropriation of funds, the international organization announced in a statement that almost 1,600 of its staff would be dismissed. In addition, the staff would be screened by a magnetometer and X-ray machine before entering the premises to remove their belongings, accompanied by security guards. The agency explained that they will only be able to remove their personal belongings without the possibility of taking any documents, materials, or objects that are considered government property. And U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday confirmed the visit on February 28th of his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky to the White House, where they are scheduled to rubricate an agreement on rare earth and plans for Ukraine's post-conflict reconstruction. During his first official cabinet meeting of his second term, Trump thanked Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick for reaching this agreement. He also rebuked Joe Biden's previous administration for its 3-year spending spree and said that his administration would focus on recovering that funding. Trump said he would not give any more money to Ukraine. And also, the White House has been insisting that U.S. must take control of Ukraine's rare earths, a series of reserves containing some of the key minerals for the new technology industry. And the government of Venezuela described as harmful and inexplicable the U.S. decision to cancel the agreements for oil operations between the two countries. Referring to the alleged infringement of preset conditions, the United States announced its decision to suspend the license given to Chevron Oil Company to extract Venezuelan oil. Venezuelan officials have pointed out that the U.S. arguments lack evidence and show the imperialist spirit of these decisions, which harm not only Venezuela but the U.S. people as well. The concession had been granted on November 26, 2022 by the Biden administration. In this context, the executive vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, expressed through her social networks that the government of the United States had made a harmful and inexplicable decision by announcing sanctions against U.S. company Chevron, pretending to harm the Venezuelan people, and it is actually harming the United States, its population, and its companies, also calling into question the legal security of the United States in its international investment regime. In turn, Rodriguez stated that the constitutional government of Venezuela and its people in great national union categorically rejects this type of actions publicly requested by the country's extremist and failed opposition. Venezuela emphasized that this type of failed actions drove the migration of the years 2017 and 2021 with the widely known consequences. To end, the executive vice president said that Venezuela would continue on the path to recovery, guaranteeing it will be done with creative effort of all and in absolute adherence to its sovereignty and national independence. And the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, condemned the aggressions of fascism against the Venezuelan people, reaffirming his commitment to the defense of the national territory to continue advancing in the strengthening of all sectors nationwide.
Avanzar como pueblo, porque somos pueblo. Nosotros sí somos un pueblo.
Moving forward as a people because we are people. We are conscious people who has been united, strengthened and victorious in all battles. We are like David. I always say so to the Goliaths worldwide. I always say to them, here is David blessed by God with all their strength, and with all the blessings and the blessings of all the people. Here is David against Goliath. The great David is the Venezuelan people, and its power and its civic military police union that no one messes with Venezuela. No one messes again with Venezuela. And those fascists requesting aggressions toward our country, they will be brought to justice. They will have to be brought to justice. Those fascists urging to attack Venezuela. Venezuela cannot be attacked. Venezuela cannot be touched. Venezuela must be respected. And we must make our country be respected in order to continue advancing in each of our plans.
And in other news, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth traveled to the illegal Guantanamo Bay naval base located in occupied Cuban territory. According to the Defense Department press release, this was the official's first visit since he was confirmed to the post in a closed boat. The purpose of the visit was to receive information on the operations being carried out at the base, including the so-called Migrant Operations Center and the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center, which in reality is a torture center maintained by the U.S. government since 2002. Since the beginning of the new administration, President Trump announced that thousands of tents would be built to house 30,000 undocumented immigrants detained at the border with Mexico and in the multiple raids carried out in several states. And in Brazil, preparations continue for Carnival 2025 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Several Brazilian samba schools are rehearsing what will be their caravans for the traditional Carnival parade starting this Saturday, March 1st. The Ministry of Tourism highlights the importance of the event in strengthening various economic sectors, such as street vendors and hotels, as well as mobilizing national and international tourists. The Carnival of Rio de Janeiro, the world's showcase of these festivities, will have 482 carnival blocks to welcome around 8 billion visitors, along with cities such as Sao Paulo, Minas Gerais, and Pernambuco. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.